And we're live. And we missed setting up the countdown. Damn it.
Come on, Omar. We can do it again.
We can do it again. No, it's like we stay with that. Welcome to today's show. If you see two new faces, or actually one new face, and wondering who this guy is, let me just give you a quick heads up. We've got Kevin Indig here. I hope you know him.
Maybe.
Welcome.
And we got Alex Breitenbach. Breitenbach?
Yes. Yeah, White Creek.
White Creek.
Yeah, if you translate Breitenbach into English, that's White Creek.
White Creek. Yes, Mr. White Creek on the mic. Good to talk to you today. Marcus is on vacation, right?
Yes. Marcus is on vacation this week. He will be back next week, although we will have a public holiday in Bavaria and Germany next week. So next week we won't have any sessions. And after that, for the rest of the August, I'm honored to represent him and speak way too fast, hopefully, and try to redirect all of you to the weekend with our 302 sessions that we're having today.
Do you know where Marcus is?
He's at Lake Constance, as far as I know, with the family. Beautiful area. I can highly recommend everybody who's coming to Germany to also go to Lake Constance. It's a very, it's not only the biggest lake in Germany, but it's also a very beautiful area with good wine, good fruits all around, beautiful area, beautiful flowers. So that's something I can highly recommend.
Yeah, Germans love their lakes.
Yeah. Germans love their lakes, that's true. And we've got Philip here in the show, so I'm really happy to have you here. Hi from Bielefeld. I don't know how to translate that into English. Do you know that?
Bielefeld?
Bielefeld.
I don't know. I've never. Last week we still weren't sure if that city really exists. Marcus claims to have been to Bielefeld. I'm still skeptical, so I don't know how to translate it.
Okay, actually, I have a very interesting story with Bielefeld, because once I drove by the motorway and suddenly everything started to become foggy and I didn't see anything. So I cannot really confirm that the city exists.
The conspiracy lives on.
Yeah. So I got my father here. Best regards. Thanks for that. Also sending you to the weekend. And yeah, the new kind of boring. I know everybody's claiming that, and it's no big update that we have nowadays. But at least something that we have found, something that came back, and that's in summer in Germany, got sun again. So after weeks of rain, it started to become very beautiful, warm, and very nice at this point. So
and why is that? Why is that? Because I left Germany. I'm back in the US for a month, and that's why your weather is good. So once I come back, end of August, we'll flip the switch. Get ready.
Okay, I'll get my winter gear out at that point and making sure that everything's fine and working again.
Sounds good.
Great. So we got a couple of news that are happening and many different things changing and just come up, and we wanted to run through all of those once. We know that's summer weeks, so maybe not as many people might participate as we used to have or as we used to, but still the news are coming up and are just like plummeting in and joining, shaking up our world. And that's why I want to just give you a quick heads up of what's happening. And I thought actually yesterday evening when we started to set up all the news that we were having, and Philip was so kind to help me with the Monday's show that we had with SEO, Daily SEO. Just updating, and the biggest news that actually just came in was there's a new LLM or a new version of ChatGPT called ChatGPT-5. Have you actually watched the whole video so far and went through everything, or is it just some sparks that you have been looking in?
Just some sparks so far, to be completely honest with you. I have one thing that I already know I want to comment on, but I'm gonna let you drive. Should we watch the whole video in this session? Just drink coffee and watch the video together.
Yeah, then we need actually a new format. Then we need to switch to Twitch or something like this, and watching videos and then commenting live on them. I don't know if StreamYard is the best format at this point. But so far, the remarks the comments that I've been seeing were quite good. I tested a little bit around and was really impressed by some of the results that I've gotten, and also some of the flaws that I have been finding. And one of the first things was, how about generating an image with this new model that contains the whole alphabet, and for every letter of the alphabet. I wanted to have actually an animal being put next to it with the that starts with the same letter actually. And the result that I actually got with that was that. And at the beginning, it looks really nice. So you got many different animals. You've got the cat that's working, D for dolphin, and then E for jaguar and a penguin. That was really, really weird. Then continuously with the fox that we had. Additionally, I think penguin also came up again. So we got this a little bit of duplicate content. And the first animal has the same legs as the giraffe. I thought that was kind of interesting. So it's like still some smaller things that aren't been working that good. And let me just you with unicorn, that was also quite nice.
That's when it falls apart. Yeah,
that's
unicorn and yuck were my favorites.
So we can kind of see that there are kind of different issues happening there, where there still needs some tweaking to be done. But after that, I mean, we still have the letters. They look quite good. We have animals being put together. So that was actually quite cool from this perspective.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Y and Z are missing, a couple letters missing. But look, it's getting a lot better. What prompt did you use?
I just used a very easy one. And to be honest, also here in German. So just give me a list of the alphabet and attach an animal towards it.
Okay, so zero-shot prompting.
Yeah.
Okay, not bad. Honestly, for zero-shot, not that bad. I'm curious to see if other models will do it better. There was some, I don't want to say controversy, but there was one chart in this video that caught some attention. Did you plan to? Okay, you already.
Let me just quickly see if I can.
You know what I want to talk about.
Yeah. Where do we have it?
Let's see. It was one of the benchmarks.
Yeah, but maybe I think I skipped it at the beginning. Oh, there.
Yeah. Okay, now we're getting closer. Here we go. Another one.
The accuracy. Let me just.
Somewhere there. I think that's it's the MMU. I think we're getting close. Anyway, was one of the benchmark charts where they committed. I think that's it. Yeah. I think it's it. Okay. That's the one. Yeah, the SWE benchmark. Yep. I mean, it's hard to see here, but ChatGPT 5 gets a score of almost 75, and then look at the other two columns in this chart. So 03, 69, 40, 30, and they both get the same size. Yeah. That is what I call y-axis crime. That is a crime, ladies and gentlemen, in the state of Kevin. And yeah, I think they repeated that a couple times with also other models like Gemini and Opus from Anthropic. So yeah, I guess ChatGPT 5 made that chart. It fits to the graphic that it created for you. Obviously not very cool, but I think, like, on a serious note, what's we need obviously more testing, more data, but the early impression is that ChatGPT 5 is not the big leap that we thought it would be. It's clearly, like, I've been using it since last night, and it is better, right? It hallucinates less often, it pulls fresher web data, etc. It's faster. It's really good, but it's not this leap to artificial general intelligence that maybe OpenAI made it out to seem, and that maybe some people thought it would be. So, I think it seems like the jump between ChatGPT 4 to 5 is smaller than from 3 to 4. And that has a couple of implications. One is that, personally, I'm relieved a little bit, to be completely honest, because I think AI is developing so fast and so rapidly that it's hard for me to keep up. And I know that a lot of people feel the same. So by the progress slowing down, it gives us a bit of a chance to kind of adapt to the new normal. Second, I wonder if OpenAI, they had a head start of maybe 6 months. I wonder if that head start is gone now completely, because, as I said, so Opus 4.1, I think it's called, from Anthropic, achieves pretty much the same results, at least when it comes to coding and some other tasks. Grok 4, also very close in benchmarks. So it seems like that head start is going away a little bit. And third, I also wonder if, reasoning models are plateauing. So this happened with like regular LLMs, like ChatGPT 3.5 and 4. At some point, they were plateauing, and then reasoning models came out, and then reasoning models open up a whole new range of possibilities. And now it seems like reasoning models are plateauing, and I think agents are coming out, and they open up a whole new range of possibilities, right? So we're seeing this pattern where you have an S curve, and as soon as it plateaus, there's another S curve, and then another S curve. And so I'm very curious to see what we can expect from agents. They're still not great, and I wonder if ChatGPT 5 allows them to become a lot better. So I'm going to pause here because I've been talking for a long time, but that's my initial assessment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I think that's really interesting what you've just been saying, especially due to also the updates that we heard that new browsers are coming out that are helping. And also they mentioned within this presentation that this actually is one of the big leaps towards the agentic web. So also that they're trying to use this as a possibility to use more and more agents on a regular basis. So actually it fits absolutely directly what you've been saying so far. And I just had to pick up a little bit this chart because our golden boy, Philip, just mentioned that this is actually a very interesting chart that he's also been seeing across them that he wanted to highlight at this position. Again, also looking into, I don't know if you can read that perfectly on my screen. If that works fine. Yeah, but also here, coding deprecation, chart, character missing images, and also production traffic, if I could see that correctly at this point. That's what they've been looking at this point. So we can also see that the new model seems to be working quite a lot better than the old ones so far.
Yeah.
So I think that's also quite interesting from what we're seeing. So we're getting onto a new direction, onto a new possibilities with this new model. I think many things are going to be found out. Still some tweaking that needs to be done on some certain areas, but all in all, it's heading into the right direction. I think, if I can't remember, I hope I remember correctly, that I think at the beginning of this week or also last week, we said also that probably is going to come out soon, and boom, there it is. So I thought that was also really cool that we're getting.
It's like the June core update. It's like the June core update. Yeah. We called it here in the show. We need to like write this down and make it public so you can prove that this was called out first here.
Yeah. What about, I don't know, like flying cars or something, like self-driving cars, something like this? Do you have an estimation for this?
Let me look into my crystal ball. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough to say.
Still need some time until we have those ones. But what's interesting, what's coming, obviously we had to work a little bit, so it's hard to just play around. It's so freshly and new. I think there will be some updates and some new things that we also talk about this.
Yes.
And we see...
I think it's also important... Okay, Rüdiger, sorry. Rüdiger says, but Kevin, will agents not just be a different way of applying the same technology, but not a leap forward in... I think Rüdiger means thinking.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably a bit semantics, right? Because I don't want to say like, what is thinking, right? And how do we define thinking? But I think really you're correct. It basically means applying the same cognitive capacity to a different application. Because what these agents are doing right now is they're mostly going to web, they're navigating the web, they're taking screenshots, they understand kind of what's next, and then they actually click. They can also create their own virtual machines, their own desktops. Yeah, Rüdiger got it. And so, yes, I think in that sense, Rüdiger, you are correct. What is interesting is that agents can learn from more real-world applications, right? So a lot of the magic and potential of AI is obviously how the system learns. And right now, it's a question-answering loop or system. And with agents, you have the potential to learn from a task. And I think that is going to improve the model significantly. Because don't forget, right? Like the underlying LLM is trained on text and maybe some multimodal stuff like videos and whatnot, but essentially it's mostly text, right? And then the reasoning models are trained by feedback and by reinforcement. And then agents are also trained by feedback and reinforcement. So the potential for agents to get better is much, much higher than the underlying LLM because there's only so much text. And I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the training data. So, I mean, maybe not the end, right? But there's just not that much left, especially low-hanging fruit. And so, because these models are always trained from scratch, I think the underlying LLMs will not get that much better at all. But the agents, because they get reinforced learning, they will accelerate quite a bit. So I think in that sense, you're correct, Rudiger.
And I think like one of the examples that I've been thinking over again is like when you're back in Germany, you always have this microphone and you keep complaining live on that it just switches off its the mic button because it's so sensitive at this point.
Yes.
And like my ideal goal would be that those systems or those agents actually will find the show and see like, oh, look, here's really a live example where this microphone has been used, and then use this learning. It's not just Kevin Indig writes an article about his microphone, but really seeing, okay, this is a person really live struggling, and then taking this information and then put it back into the backlog so they can actually use this information continuously.
Yes, exactly. They also have much longer context windows now because of ChatGPT 5, which is another reason for why ChatGPT 5 improves agentic capabilities. So yes, they can store all of that, save it, call it when they need it, or remember it when they need it, and the model is much, much faster. So yes, as quote unquote bad as agents are today, I think in the next months we'll notice a significant step up. And so I've been also thinking a little bit about what other SEO implications are there from ChatGPT 5. And maybe it's not SEO, maybe it's search or organic growth, whatever you want to call it. And so one I see is that, again, so ChatGPT 5 has a much, much bigger context window and better memorization capabilities, which means that the experience for people will become more personalized, right? And so us as marketers, we need to even better understand our target audience, what they care about, what their preferences are, etc., so that we can understand their personalized experience as good as possible. One. Two, the model is much, much faster. So there's a higher chance of users getting to their final answers quicker on ChatGPT. So we have to see what the implications are if more people use ChatGPT than, say, Google AI Overviews or AI Mode, but that advantage is could be, could make a difference in usage. And then three, what's most interesting, I think, is how the web calling functionality, right? So the muscle from ChatGPT 5 to basically find information on the web, that is natively integrated. So with ChatGPT 4, there was a separate module, a separate muscle, if you will, that activated whenever ChatGPT had to use the web for up-to-date information. Now that's embedded. Essentially, it's going much, much, much faster, and the results are much fresher. I actually tested this a couple of times, and it's surprisingly good how accurate and real-time the web results are in ChatGPT. And so as a result, I expect that we'll see more referral traffic from ChatGPT because there are more web results, and even more conversions from ChatGPT because it brings in so many more web results in general. So obviously we don't have the data yet, and the verdict is still out, but that's what I expect from this update.
So predictions by Kevin to see what's happening, and when we have the data, we'll come back to you and praise you for being right. Maybe I see that.
Maybe, or prove me wrong.
And something that I thought was kind of interesting, also something that was mentioned on the video, that they actually created the system in a way that the answers are a little bit shorter than they used to be. So also here, very precise, short answers. And then if you need any feedback or you want to have more depth, you can ask, but not the other way around as it was previously. You just like have one quick ask to get us feedback back. And suddenly it was like, boom, you get directly like a whole content that you've been used to. Maybe you know this from some recipes where you want to have, I don't know, it's like some Italian food recipes, and suddenly you get like a story of how it was invented, how the recipe itself was presented from your grandma and handed over somehow, and you just wanted to have what ingredients do you need and do you need to buy, and now it's a little bit more crisp and more precise. So I thought that was also quite interesting from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, totally. I mean, at the end of the day, right, like there is this balance between how detailed the answer is and how many tokens it needs. And so I think, for example, on the API, from a pure business perspective, you want to use more tokens. In the user interface, you probably want to use less tokens because the API charges by volume. The user interface is a flat subscription. And so it makes sense to me that answers are becoming a bit shorter on the UI. But at the same time, if that means users need to follow up a lot more, then it's maybe not a good experience. So I expect ChatGPT and OpenAI to still find the right balance there between detail and preciseness. And it's the same in search, right? There's this concept of fuzzy match, means how exact do you want search results and information retrieval to fit to the query that people use, compared to how much fuzziness do you want to allow, meaning how much serendipity do you want to allow? So it's like it's a common problem in search that I think translates really well to AI too.
Yeah. And also, what a surprise, ChatGPT is now the topic. I mean, we mentioned it in the description, to be honest, but yeah,
it has to be. It has to be. I think it's a really a good comment, because in 2025, I think every SEO needs to think about ChatGPT and of course all the other models as well. But these are the new algorithm updates, right? I'm not sure, core updates and stuff. Cool, it's nice to have, but these are the updates that matter so much more, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a little bit like I don't know if you see the video from Mark Williams Cook on the Brighton SEO, where he said how actually Google is actually trying to reiterate its algorithm always in some kind of certain directions. And I mean, they're already pretty good. So the biggest shakeups that we have been seeing with Panda and Penguin and so on are not actually happening anymore. So you see tweaks and these kind of things, but it's not massively changing throughout the whole scenery. And therefore, with these new models, you see a much more bigger impact nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the Google update problem is that there's too much circling, right? A website gains and then loses and then gains and loses, and they do nothing differently. That to me is, I don't know what they're doing, right? Now these AI updates, the capabilities are getting fundamentally better, right? And you can notice that and see that in the trends. So anyway, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but I think these are much more interesting than core updates or any SEO updates.
Yeah, let's see that. I think I just showed the comment from Rudy about SaaS in general, not just SEO, but he's true. Especially also Salesforce, HubSpot, all of those will have a different job, how it's going to work, and because it's going to become easier with more specific tools for each task instead of using one that just adapts to different scenarios. But to be honest, I think this could also depend. Maybe you've got one general system that you've been using on a regular basis, and that just can do many things, and then different specialized features as well. Maybe self-coded, maybe also being offered by big companies at this point. So I think there's still different options on how this might be evolving.
Oh yeah. Oh god. I mean, don't get me started. But I'm a big advocate of vibe coding and building little applications for yourself. And at the same time, I think we're still far away from a reality. Eric Schmidt talks about that a lot. He loves to talk Schmidt. And he talks about this future where you just prompt something and the AI will create the user interface and the new operating system on the spot and stuff. And we're still far away from that. But the reality is, as Rüdiger pointed out, that teams, especially non-technical teams, are becoming much more self-sufficient.
Yeah. I think it's and also, to be honest, trying also with a little bit of vibe coding, it's still not that easy. It's not like you say something and then you've got your perfect Python script. Suddenly you find out, oh, I still need to download this library. I need to download this library. Yeah. Do I know if this library is actually safe? I don't know.
Yeah.
you become very dependent, and it brings also some kind of security aspect into it that would probably could fill this whole discussion today as well. But still also something to have in the back of our heads, just not trust them for 100%, but still be a little bit cautious, use them on a regular basis to see what you can do with it, how far you can get, but also on the other hand, be cautious of where it could harm you, where there's also some dangers within there.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but it's also, still not production ready, right? I see vibe coding as nice prototypes, good to have, and it's not something you can just like embed into your tech stack and then be fine. Like there's a lot of things that are still, as you said, like maybe not secure, maybe inefficient, maybe kind of just not coded well. For me, it's more like, it's almost like it's almost like a bicycle, right? Like you can definitely go a lot faster, but it's not like a train yet, where you can go from one city to the next.
Well, you can go with a bike from one city to the next.
In Germany, maybe, yes. Let's take American cities.
Okay, yeah, good. So maybe it's still stay with OpenAI. Just also something really cool that I think is very interesting. We touched briefly on this on our Monday's shows regarding the study mode that actually ChatGPT or OpenAI is currently also involving, helping students to also get a little bit stronger into what they're actually learning at this point in time. I think this is also very interesting because we've seen in recent studies that using very strongly LLMs on a regular basis also changes your brain. I don't know if you know Pip Glöckner's talk at OMR Festival in Hamburg, where he was also saying, okay, there's proof that people might dumb down when they just use them too often. And he actually just shifting into a different direction and actually leveraging everything so you have a personal assistant that could help you at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I can feel my brain atrophy when I outsource too much thinking to ChatGPT. So it's very dangerous, but also very tempting. And what I love about study mode is you have a dedicated model for breaking things down for you, right? Like a lot of times when I use ChatGPT to solve certain problems, it gives me the answer requiring a certain knowledge about a topic. And that is a jump that sometimes isn't valuable or feasible, better said. And with study mode, you can fill these gaps a little bit better.
Yeah. And you can dumb it down so even I can understand them.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I thought it was really interesting because maybe you remember back in school, like when you got some homework to do and it was just like really hard mathematical question. And you just like tried to crack down your head to find out what's the solution. And then you ended up maybe not getting the perfect idea or getting something wrong. And then when you were back in school and you went through this task, and it was like just one minor thing that you just got wrong. Like having like some system that points you into the direction, like maybe change your idea at this point, that would be like really helpful. So I think there's like having like an on-demand teacher is quite interesting. And I don't know, maybe it also changes the whole way of education in the near future.
I think it's already changed. All the students are using ChatGPT. I mean, like all of them, right? It's like 100% adoption. And so, it makes sense to lean a little bit into that. Also, I mean, I think ChatGPT was I think Gemini also adapted study mode now. I think you can also find it in Gemini. And so why are they doing that? It's because there's like a classic SaaS strategy for customers, because you want to raise your customers early. You have early exposure to the students, and when they starting to work at companies, they might be more likely to go with your solution, right? We did this at Atlassian. We had big scholarship and student programs where they could get Jira and Confluence and other tools for free, so that when they get into the tech industry and start working for a company, they think of Atlassian as the first solution. It's a classic branding strategy.
Yeah. So your take of it and the prediction I would derive from this would be, next step would be to have something for kindergarten kids, a solution from ChatGPT or Gemini to prime them as early as possible.
Man, I know I would actually agree with that prediction. I think that makes a perfect sense, right? Little kindergarten learning tools or something. It's like, Mercedes or Porsche or whatever, they create these little toy cars with exactly the same thought, so that kids associate cars with, with Mercedes.
Or the Bosch drillers or something like this for kids, that they can already play around and these kind of things.
Yeah,
So
smart.
Francis actually just quickly says, like, he knows that's a stretch, but does it mean that going to library actually dumbs you down? No, not at all. I think reading still is very important. But I think there was also studies about, there was a test about taxi drivers in London, where they really were able to measure how their brain is changing if they're using navigation systems or not. So also, like, outsourcing thought thinking can result in kind of different problems.
Yeah. And look, it's like it's natural for the brain to atrophy when you don't do a certain thing, and that's not necessarily bad. You just need to be careful, right? Like it's like people driving into a river, into a bach, because they're following the GPS in the beginning, right? They're just stupidly following, and so I think we're going through that same learning curve with AI, where it's like, yeah, sure, it is better at certain things, and if it's better, then maybe you should use it, but don't forget to critically question the output.
Yeah. And we got a recommendation for 1,000 Ways to Die in the West.
All right.
Yeah, that's very nice. Perfect. So moving on, and also following the ideas that we were talking about ChatGPT. So we're seeing generally, especially with the old models that we've been seeing, that less and less traffic or less and less overlap with the results from Bing, and more an overlap with the results that we've been seeing with Google. I think also Leda posted this quite recently, that it seems to be Google is being the primary source for direct results from the sources that ChatGPT is actually showing nowadays. So this change and shift is actually happening and moving on so far. So I thought that was also quite interesting to see at this point, while we see that Andy is also joining today. So hi, greetings to Hamburg.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting. Because I had a couple of clients who had content that did not appear in ChatGPT. And when we looked, we saw that the content is indexed on Google, but was not indexed on Bing. And when we got it to index on Bing, all of a sudden, ChatGPT was able to access the content. So personally, I don't think this is the final verdict yet. I think what is happening is that ChatGPT is willing to also look at Google, but probably more willing to look at Bing. And so
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to make of these experiments. What do you think?
So it's interesting. Maybe something has to do with the beef that's going behind bars between Google and OpenAI at this point, between Microsoft and OpenAI. So there's something to have, like, just look for an alternative. So we're not 100% just having one supplier for search results. And this might be something to take into account, at this possibility. I mean, Google is very happy to drive more and more searches on a regular basis. So any kind of queries that are being put into their system, something they can actually share nowadays. So this might be something that also falls into account. But maybe it's just like differentiating and just testing it out, what might work better. And usually we see that there's a high adoption rate with good Google results. So this might be also sending the trend nowadays.
Why wouldn't, like, what I wonder about is, like, why would Google not block ChatGPT?
Because it's a big amount of queries that are being sent. Like, we're seeing that more and more queries are being requested in Google. That's a really good number to actually say. And especially since we know that there are fan outs, it's actually multiple queries at the same time. But that's just a wild guess.
Yeah. It makes sense, but none of these queries monetize, right? Because people just get the answer in ChatGPT. So I'm still a bit surprised.
And we see that Rüdiger is trying to get serious for once. Interesting take. For traffic from ChatGPT, anyone knows if the referrer has changed with 5 now?
I haven't seen the refer change, but I also haven't looked at a large data set. This is all just from my anecdotal usage in the last, 12, maybe 16 hours.
Yeah, it's very, very short amount of time, and it's really interesting how it's taken. I actually tried to get some answers for for also just up-to-date news information. So something new things that happened in Munich. And interestingly, it had problems accessing the web earlier. So there was some technical difficulties that I was facing. So I thought that was also quite interesting and worth mentioning nowadays.
Nice. Interesting.
So maybe maybe at that point they got blocked by Google or something like that.
Maybe it happened after all. I don't know, but again, I would not be surprised, because Amazon already blocked all the LLMs. If you look at their robots.txt, you'll see that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Google decides to block ChatGPT and other LLMs, and then it's on, man. Then it's on. But I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, kind of interesting what's happening. So now shifting gears a little bit and going a little bit away from ChatGPT and OpenAI, we have seen there's a big article released from Liz Reed so far about the AI in search and how it's driving more queries. So we see more queries happening. So that actually aligns to the narrative that I've been saying, and also higher quality clicks. So not saying more clicks, but the quality of those clicks are going way up, which still is very vague in a general speaking, and there's no data to back up actually her experience up. And if kind of what I thought was really interesting, and for me it sums up, is just this image that we've been seeing similar from TechCrunch, using the clown methodology at this point, going to the exactly direction, saying, well, actually we're denying that AI search features are killing website traffic as well. What we're seeing so far. So what's your take on this, generally speaking, also especially on this article from Liz at this point?
I mean, it takes such balls to stand up in front of, quote unquote, the world, and then delivering this PR puke, and like not a single number to make that claim. So super defensive, I think very weak from Google. Like they're getting into the defensive position. They're getting into that. Their arguments are incredibly bad, and they're just like a stubborn child. They're just repeating themselves. And I think they would be much smarter to be transparent about the change and then offer some solutions instead of insisting that this is not happening, right? Because it's clearly happening. And if you look closer, you can see how they are very specific in their words. I would say the best take probably came from Tom Critchlow on LinkedIn. And what Tom said is, considering that Google sees about 15% of new queries every year, right? So queries grow 15 to 20% every year. And in this article, Liz Reed says that she sees aggregate clicks being flat, which means if you see 20% more queries and clicks are flat, that means clicks are actually down 20% proportionally, right? Because they're not growing as fast as queries. And so that indirectly, you could say they actually admit that clicks are down. But of course, they don't say it that way, right? Like they make it seem like, no, clicks are not down, and we're sending more quality clicks and stuff. But it is so preposterous to me, because everybody, when they look into their search console, they're seeing clicks down, right? Especially in proportion to impressions. So theoretically, your clicks can still be up year over year if you grow like crazy, but proportionally, they're down. And so it's, again, like, it's upsetting to see this. I think, especially for industries like publishers, this is a little bit like a slap in the face. And you can see that there's more pressure on Google based on the earnings calls. So last earnings calls, a high amount of questions was about clicks, more on ads than organic results, right? But still clicks and query growth and all that kind of stuff. And the way that Google comes back is very weak, right? They don't yet have a good answer. And that makes me think that we'll come to this moment where shareholders might be losing more trust in Google, because they're seeing that growing disparity between what's actually happening and what Google pretends to be happening. So they need to come around. They should be proactive. They should also fire their comms person. I think whoever runs comms at Google needs to be let go, because they're not driving the narrative, right? It's always weak, and unless you're in a catastrophe, right? It's always weak to be reactive and defensive. It's always helpful to define the narrative yourself, and that's not what Google is doing here at all.
Yeah. So my guess also was interesting, like this coincidence that this article was just published one day before ChatGPT 5 came out.
Yeah.
Additionally, into the summer months. So it's like maybe they were hoping that this was actually trying to just like be overheard, and when in September all people come back, starting work again, and then they're just forgotten about this, and so they have published something, it went out, and not too many people have actually made their mind up around this. So that was like what I was thinking, but still was one day ahead, so maybe they did not know about this. And what actually Rudiger has been saying at this point, also saying that in the UK they've learned to trust not to trust people named Liz, especially with the surname of Trust. Okay, that's a very funny take. I wouldn't automatically apply that to everybody who's called Liz, but still get where you're coming from. But on the other hand, we've been also seeing many things that were actually also positively impacting by Google. So obviously we had the earnings call last week, so that was quite interesting and quite good. And now it's some very weak conversation and communication at this point. But what I also thought was really interesting, that Notebook LM got an update with the video overviews that actually happened. And what I did, I was just very lazy. So actually I used the Notebook LM to get a suggest about what actually happened with the ChatGPT 5 video from OpenAI at this point. So this was really cool. So I got actually not only an article or a podcast of the series, but also got the video towards it. So everything with very nice slides that I could take a look at to see actually what has happened. So I thought that was really incredible what they have actually been doing with that. Have you had the chance to test it out so far?
A little bit, not as much as I want to, but I know of people who started YouTube channels because they can now turn articles into YouTube videos. I'm not sure if it's good enough yet to really build a large audience, right? It's more like a nice to have. But what I'm wondering about the most is, when do those videos come to Google search? Because it makes sense for Notebook LM to be integrated with AI mode. And we've already seen some audio summaries and audio results. And I don't see a reason for why Google should not create AI mode answers with Notebook LM and then create like little videos. So I expect that multimodal type of answer to appear at some point in the next 12 months.
Yes, I think you mentioned that already, and it absolutely makes sense, especially when you come to more complex queries that are going to the direction like, I need to fix something, I need to, especially like, when we're going back to cooking, and we know that Hans is here, like I want to have cook I don't know, something really nice, make a pizza or something like this, and you just get like everything put together in one video, specialized on those ingredients that you have at home. And with agent mode, you already can create a list with your most wanted vendor, and they will send the products home to you. So you have everything integrated. So I think this might be really interesting. I don't know if this is the life that I wanted to live, but at least there's some cool use case that we can have with that.
Yeah, totally.
And additionally, what we've been also seeing is that also here from AI or from Google, having new ways to actually explore AI mode. So we see, for instance, the canvas that you can use, also getting more questions about different images or PDFs. It all ties down into the same direction, linking everything together and seeing how everything's going on so far.
Do you use Canva sometimes?
Not so much at this point. Not yet. Have you been using it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Less on AI mode, more on ChatGPT and Claude, but I think it's incredibly helpful to create documents of all kinds, content, because you can you have more control over the output.
Yeah, and we get a very overview of everything. I cannot open this link right away, but we can have a look at this in the aftermath, as well as also just amount the energy consumed by all of those AI overviews and when they create individual videos. Yes, and to be honest, creating those videos just takes time. So you really have to wait a lot until you have some feedback. So getting a summary for a 1 hour video takes probably 10 minutes to get this summary, and then you can can listen to it later on. So this is also something to take into account at this point, something to have in the back of our heads.
Yeah, I mean, the energy cost of all of this is absolutely crazy, and I think the kind of sad, I mean, the sad reality is that this is not being taken into account. You know what I mean? I think the opposite is the case, right? It's a battle for energy behind the scenes, where tech companies are buying nuclear reactors and are working on mini nuclear reactors to create energy, because they can already see that the 2 or 3 limiting factors of AI in the future is 1, energy, and 2, chips, right? So we already can see the end of that. And, you know, I think energy conservation is not even yet a value proposition that these companies are talking about. I think that's the sad reality.
Yeah, but also very interesting. I think that even like with all of those models that are happening, what the leading developers at OpenAI mentioned also, and Omar in Hamburg, is that with every new model, they're also driving the efficiency of of those models. So they're also getting better and better and saving more and more energy. But I think we're running into this Jevons law or Jevons paradox at this point in time. The more efficient it becomes, the more people want to use it, and the bigger the consumption is in the end.
Yeah.
So definitely something to have in this. And also what Hans is saying here, that he doesn't want to live in a world where the recipes without Chef Koch at this point. I feel your pain at this point. So definitely something to have in the back of our heads and thinking about when it comes to those things.
Chef Koch LLM.
Chef Koch LLM, yeah.
Yeah, it's the future.
That's the future.
Hans, where I maybe you already have that, but where is the Chef Koch AI?
Yeah.
And
you just go, I've got the following products at home. What can I cook in 10 minutes? What can I cook in 15 minutes? And so on.
Just camera, live video or images of what you have, and then 3 recipes on the spot.
Yeah. So we're also seeing here, additionally to what we've seen previously, new things are being rolled out. For instance, in this case, Gemini DeepThink AI. So also here, a new reasoning model that's being worked on. So also here, it's a battle is still on with all of those things. And it's really interesting how Google is very powerful with all of those different informations, new updates they're bringing out, and actually also leading everything. And then when it comes back to search, it's like having this weak communication style out of here.
Yeah.
And this goes on, especially now. We mentioned this at the beginning of this week, but also here AR mode is already in the UK available. So I think it's just a matter of time until we have it within the EU and can also use it at that time.
When do you think it's coming out?
I would say the end of the summer. So now we've got a good possibility, but that's just a wild guess.
Yeah. Let's see. We just had an earnings call, so that means we're about 3 months away, which is earnings call, I think, was middle of not last week. It was like end of July. So that's end of October. I would say in the fall. My guess is in the fall, just before the earnings call. So I'd say middle of October, we'll see it in the EU.
Yeah. So it's going to be working into it. And then what we're seeing with this, and I think this is like a very good article also being set up by Garrett from IPL Rank, that AI mode isn't very sticky yet. So what actually they have found out, and that's just where we can stay with the first topics at this point in time, is that first of all, they're being used very often. But what we're seeing also that over 50% of the users tried AI mode once and then just did not return. And I think this is kind of like very interesting, because obviously it's a little bit more resource that it takes to create all of those different answers, but also it just takes longer to be used, and therefore the stickiness is quite low at this point in time. And this is kind of like a big challenge that Google is also facing at this point.
Yes. And I would also be curious how that compares to ChatGPT. Obviously, the flows are very different, because you get into AI mode through search most of the time. I think they also added it to the Chrome bar, at least for new Chrome versions. And sure, you can go to the base URL, but I think most people will discover it through search. And so the question is, can we have a different expectation of stickiness there compared to ChatGPT, where people start with a conversational interface?
Yeah, but Like, if you don't expect to have a AI conversation in search, or at least at the moment, do you think it will be able to change that in the near future, or is it something that we'll keep on having?
No, I think like what I heard from Googlers is that Sundar Pichai wants to make AI mode the default search experience in the next 2 to 3 years. So unless users hate it, right? If they see that people hate it, they will obviously not force it. But I think they're driving really hard towards that being the default, and so then that might change.
Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. So before I'm adding to the newsletter at this point, just going back into this. So, but also here, what we're seeing is different add-ins, AI-powered add-ins for Chrome that actually help AI summarized information about shoppers, OAS shoppers. So I thought it's kind of interesting that kind of like a little bit hidden, where you can see some information about how trustworthy a page is, how many reviews they have gotten, and what actually takeaway. So also what different customers say about this. Kind of interesting at this point, but still, like you have to click a little bit to find this small summary. But still, here we get some eye integration at this point.
Yeah. Again, Google is bringing more AI features to Chrome, which is the most powerful weapon in this race, because that cuts off every web app, right? If it's right in the browser, that is closer to the end consumer than navigating to a site or even a browser extension. Now, maybe a browser extension can compete, but at the end of the day, if it's right then and there, that's the closest path. Maybe the device would be the next level, right? And that's where I think Microsoft might have a little bit of an advantage, because they can operate on the device level, and they already try, but I'm not sure if they execute good enough.
But speaking of Microsoft, and this is actually the perfect segue. So I thought, like, okay, here we've got some AI features coming to Chrome at this point in time, and just like Microsoft goes all in with their new AI-powered Edge browser. So I think here we see that there are more features coming towards that, and also here having some possibilities on working on different parts. So also here with Copilot coming, or Copilot mode coming directly to Edge, like they're shifting very much stronger in here. It's like kind of interesting that Google hasn't done this shift yet.
Yes, I agree. And of course, the context is that Perplexity has launched their Comet browser, and OpenAI has also announced their own browser, which makes perfect sense, right? For the reasons that we spoke about before, that Chrome or Google is willing to leverage the biggest weapon, which is Chrome, but also because of agentic capabilities, right? If you have an agent living right into your browser, which is what Microsoft tries here, you avoid a couple of problems like JavaScript, etc. I mean, this is all built on Chromium, which is much better at JavaScript rendering than all the other solutions. And at the same time, browsers often have login credentials stored, sometimes credit card data, and other data that's important for agents to check out. So I think this is a very clear step towards agentic web. It's a race with OpenAI, Perplexity, and of course Google. I think Google still tries to play it relatively safe, right? They're in the pole position. They have by far the biggest market share, and unless they feel threatened, I think they're going to hedge their bets and make small moves.
And not big moves. So you wouldn't say they come out like with, I don't know, Chrome Agentic or Agentic Chrome.
Doesn't
Maybe
seem like it.
Maybe before the next earnings call.
I'm not sure. I think this is going to be more of a next year topic. When I remember what Sundar Pichai said in the last earnings call, and especially in the regards to agents, I also think that he's going to let others make the first mistakes, develop agents in the labs, in Google's offices, whatever, but not yet unleash it into the wild, right? Because Google essentially can only lose by being first to something. They should be a close second, right? So that whenever somebody has a feature or a capability that really hits home, then they just need to make sure that that competitor doesn't grow quick enough or gets traction fast, right? They just need to make sure that they can quickly replicate. But I think with Chrome, they're going to be a bit more careful, and probably I think Google Mariner, which is their agent project, I think Sundar Pichai mentioned something like that being a case for next year.
Yeah. Isn't it like this saying? I know it works in German, but I don't know if it works in English. Like the first bird catches the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese.
Yes.
So I think that might be true right here. So making sure to have everything worked out so far. But speaking also of Microsoft, I was saying at Bing, what I thought was really interesting also here, how also Bing emphasizes on making sure content is discoverable through sitemaps. So also even in an AI-powered search, it's still important to keep actually those basic, and that's actually a very good segue to go back to the SEO world, making sure that we have a baseline on our features and making sure the best content is actually still easily searchable. And this is also available with different sitemaps, and therefore they also show a little bit about how to use them again, which obviously in the SEO we've been known for ages, but still it's good to have this reassuring information coming out.
Yeah, totally.
And also speaking of which, I thought that was a really cool take from John Miller at this point on actually how to optimize or how to make sure that our websites are even available and working good for agentic web at this point in time. And also here, it kind of seems like we're still also going back to basics. So making sure that we don't have any captures that actually are not available, that different agents are not able to answer, and these kind of things. Like making sure also those systems can actually access our website. And I think this also brings us really back to basics. Do we have a good website? Do we have a good, strong foundation that the content is actually being accessible, not only by users, but also by different agents at this point in time? And therefore, I thought it was really quite nice from him to also give us here some arguments on why to make sure that we have a very strong technology.
Yeah, I think, there are some legit traps for agents on websites. A lot of sites, for example, will categorically exclude checkout pages in the robots.txt. That's a problem. Pop-ups can be a problem if agents cannot figure out how to close them. So that really does change the browsing experience to some degree. And I wonder how much cloaking will help here, right? I think that is an even stronger argument to cloak sites for agents.
Dynamic serving.
Yeah, exactly. Dynamic serving, or even just very unstyled experiences, like maybe a tiny bit of CSS, but no JavaScript, nothing interactive, to keep it stupid simple, because why not, right? Google wouldn't care, users wouldn't care, agents are happy. Cloaking.
Yeah. So you say it, cloaking is coming back at this point in time for those different interactions. But it's also interesting to see what kind of systems different agents are actually preferring nowadays, what kind of websites they're preferring if they try to book something or try to offer you some results. So having said that, that's always something that have been going on and that we can show. So we got 3 minutes left at this point in time. So maybe just like a very short, quick fire round. I don't think we managed to get through all of those remaining topics. Otherwise, we'll be here until Monday. And let's have the possibility to enjoy a little bit of the weekend. But we're seeing that the beef is on regarding different systems. So in this case, between Cloudflare and especially also Perplexity. And Perplexity is claiming, Cloudflare is claiming that Perplexity is using stealth mode in order to identify what kind of content is being trying to access their own content. And I thought that's kind of interesting. So apparently, it seems like Perplexity tries to access a website, and if they get access denied from Cloudflare, they try to access it under another name from different IPs, and try to get this as well. So they can go around the ban from coming from from Cloudflare at this point. So it's really, really interesting how they're fetching or trying to fetch this different data, even if it actually says disallow at this point.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, man. But it makes sense for, first of all, Cloudflare to uncover this, and second of all, for LLMs to try to circumvent it. But it's an interesting fight, and you can see this article polarized people.
Yeah, I think definitely. And then also it's like different answers are coming back where they say Perplexity is actually claiming for delists us and blocking us, and also saying at some point that they're actually also going to the directions that they're even banning legitimate bots at this point in time. So also here being like over-exaggerating way too much at this perspective. So going to those different parts that we've been seeing so far. So I thought that was also quite interesting to see how they're complaining at this position now and just fighting back on public announcements.
Yeah, totally.
Great. I think that actually marks it. I think that's a perfect way to end today's session. I just did a very quick peek into your article that you mentioned, but I think it would take too long to go through it completely.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have that in the back of our heads for the next session. But I thought also shift of how the features for e-commerce are changing between last year and this year is something very important to have in the back of our heads. And with that, I would say we'll redirect you now from work to the weekend via status code 302. So making sure that you will get back on Monday freshly recharged. And with that, I would say happy optimizing, happy weekend, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Alex. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kevin.